The Conservative Party lost the 1997 general election in a Labour landslide. William Hague was elected leader of the party by the Conservative MPs. He brought in a new party constitution in 1998, which altered the way in which the leader of the party was elected. In future, MPs would decide which two candidates would go forward to a vote of all members of the party. After 4 years of Labour government, a general election was looming, and the Labour Party had a massive lead in the opinion polls. Speculation about the general election and about William Hague's position was increasing.
The Tories, meanwhile, don't seem to need outside help to add to their woes. William Hague is already plagued by talk of weak leadership and plots to assassinate him if his party lives up to the predictions of another wipeout. All this in the midst of what should have been fertile territory for Conservative optimism. Joe Coburn reports.
The reality of modern-day Britain under Labour over the past year hasn't exactly been a pretty picture. Foot and mouth, flooding, the fuel crisis and the dome. More apocalypse than cool Britannia. Images that should have paved the way towards electoral success for William Hague. Instead, the current joke doing the rounds is ask a Tory MP about the election. They presume you're talking about the battle for the party leadership.
If the Tories fight a campaign like the arguments of a race we've seen in the last 2 weeks of April, it'll be absolutely disastrous. I mean, that has resulted in a lot of criticism by Tory MPs of Conservative Central Office. If the campaign's like that, he's finished.
The Conservatives' election ad campaign's been overshadowed by media focus on William Hague's future as party leader. That intensified this week with the latest opinion polls predicting that Labour would increase its parliamentary majority if an election were held now.
We from BBC, just some comments about Norman Tebbett's comment made in The Spectator. Have you got anything to say?
The Shadow Chancellor, Michael Portillo, has always been seen as the biggest threat to William Hague, despite his reluctance to talk about it. And at the moment, he's certainly the bookies' favourite, although that doesn't automatically guarantee a win. So the race has begun and the betting started on who will be the next leader of the Tory Party, especially if the Conservatives have a bad run in the next general election. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Michael Portillo is the leading front-runner against William Hague, but as they say, the favourite doesn't always win. And the question at the moment is whether Mr Portillo will run at all.
Well, I got you on the stump. I wanted to bring back Ken Clark.
Once the darling of the right, Michael Portillo has moved across to the socially liberal faction of the party, losing some support along the way. He still has a strong standing, but there are doubts about whether he really wants the top job.
For once we should believe people when they say they don't want to. Maybe he doesn't want to. I think he has made a decision, if the story's true, and I don't know, but I think he's made a decision that says, this is the way I throw my weight behind William Hague. This is the way I say to the people who make up the bulk of the party, of which I'm an important part, I am loyal to the party. And he kills two birds with one stone.
But that's been set against a background of reported plotting behind the scenes by the Tory left. John Stevens, the leader of the breakaway pro-European Tories, has claimed that the former Chancellor Ken Clarke has been planning to back Michael Portillo in a post-election coup. He's also said that he's been urged not to stand against Mr Portillo in his Kensington and Chelsea constituency at the election. The claims have been denied by Mr Clarke, but once again it highlights the internal battle between the right and left of the party, a battle John Stevens believes the left will lose.
I mean, if it were, for example, to be a final between Michael Portillo and Iain Duncan Smith, or whoever is the champion of the right, I think it'd be very interesting to see who wins. My own view is that even following a defeat, a very severe defeat, the Tory party is more likely to move more to the right than it is to learn the proper lessons and adopt a more moderate policy.
So it seems the Shadow Defence Secretary is emerging as the dark horse of the right if William Hague is forced to drop out after the election. The bookies' odds have certainly shortened dramatically against him in the last few days, despite his lack of public profile.
He's tough on defence. He's arguing for a vigorous policy on Europe, possibly renegotiating Britain's position. And that appeals to a lot of Tory right-wingers who feel the current regime has been a bit wishy-washy.
Iain Duncan Smith's chances will also be improved by the new rules. Now the parliamentary party will choose the final two candidates in a leadership election, not the grassroots, although the winner will be determined by a ballot of party members. That's likely to block Anne Widdecombe's progress. So either way, it seems the knives are out for William Hague, with everyone in the shadow cabinet a potential Judas.
Well, joining me now are Tory frontbencher Cheryl Gillan, MP for Chesham and Amersham and a Hague loyalist, and John Strafford, who's chairman of the Campaign for Conservative Democracy. Let me ask you, John Strafford, you speak for the activists, or at least some of them. The Tory party, here we are, a few weeks from a general election. The party's in ferment, and as we've heard in that report, everybody's talking about who the next leader's going to be already. What a state of affairs.
Well, first of all, let me say that this general election is wide open. And it's wide open for three particular reasons.
It's not what the polls say, is it?
Well, I'll explain, because the polls don't take account of the don't knows, and I've been doing a lot of telephone canvassing, and I have to tell you there's 25 to 30% of the people out there who say that they're definitely not going to vote, or they haven't yet decided. And so we're going to get a very low turnout, in the low 60s, even high 50s. And when that happens, everything's up for grabs. And the reason people aren't turning out is because they're fed up with the politicians generally.
But there's a mood for change already, though, isn't it? I mean,
there is a mood.
Mood for change in the party, I'm talking about. They feel that Hague's been weak.
Yeah, there's a mood for change within the party, I think, that is building up, and also within the country at large. People are fed up with the way in which our democracy has been threatened.
But they're fed up with William Hague. People in the Tory party, Tory MPs, are fed up with William Hague already. They're talking about Portillo, Duncan Smith.
No, there's inevitably speculation in any party when you're approaching an election, and when you see the opinion polls that you've been highlighting so much, forecasting a defeat. So in those kind of circumstances, people are bound to speculate about a...
Cheryl Gillan, you're a Hague loyalist, a front bencher. We saw that Sun front page there, Labour majority of 227 they're predicting. You probably just about hold your seat, but surely it's time for a change in the Tory party, isn't it?
Oh, I think this is absolute rubbish. You do not change your captain when you're in the middle of the game and out on the pitch fighting, and I think it suits the media commentators and those people that want to use spoiling tactics on the Conservative Party to try and divert the conversation onto a leadership race. Even in your introduction, you said there's a ferment there. There is no ferment. I can assure you that there is no ferment in the parliamentary.
In the bars of Westminster, they talk of nothing else.
In the parliamentary party, there is a great desire to win. We are not interested in being diverted off our course by the so-called polls. The only poll that finally counts is going to be the poll in the election. And I think people are genuinely fed up with this rotten Labour government. They came in 4 years ago with a whole load of false promises that they have not delivered on for the electorate, and I think it would suit you and other commentators to try and get us off track to talk about leadership races, and that is not what we want to do. We want to concentrate on the record of this government, and if you examine the record of this government, it's failed.
John Strafford, the rules, William Hague changed the leadership rules, as you know. You're campaigning for more democracy. How do you think, I mean, assuming a Labour majority of whatever size on June the 7th, and you already told me you say it's wide open, what do you see happening on June the 8th? And are the rules fair? Are the new rules fair?
Well, on June the 8th, if we went down to a big defeat, then there'd be an election for leader. If there was a Labour majority between 70 and 100, I think that William Hague would go to the membership and he would say, endorse me as your leader. We've done well. We haven't done as well as we wanted to, but we can do better, and give me your endorsement.
But you've got this system now, I think, where only 2 candidates go through to the final ballot. That's not very democratic, is it? Because it might mean somebody like Anne Widdecombe, who's the darling of the activists, doesn't get on the final ballot
I don't think that we'll ever get to that stage, because what will happen, the parliamentary party determine the rules for this election of leader. They will get down to 2 candidates, that one will have, say, 55%, the other 45%, and at that stage, huge pressure will be put on the loser to withdraw, so that they will end up with one person, and that will be...
But you're not happy with that, though?
No, I'm not happy.
That doesn't work, does it?
No, it doesn't work, because it's undemocratic, and what we should have is all candidates in these kind of circumstances going to the membership as a whole. And in those circumstances, then the party will decide, including the MPs, whereas if you have this kind of filtering process, can you imagine the parliamentary party accepting a situation where The majority of them wanted one person, and yet the party out in the country wanted somebody else.
Cheryl Gillan, isn't it the case that William Hague may well survive if he does survive, because nobody else wants the job, or won't want the job if there's a big Tory defeat?
I don't think this is a conversation we should be having now. I think we are fighting an election. I think we should be examining the Labour government's record and judging them on their record, and looking at things like their 45 stealth taxes, their failure to deliver on police, their failure to deliver in education, their failure to deliver in the health service.
Okay.
And I think we should be looking at where the Conservative Party has come from in the 4 years in opposition.
Well,
and
in
William
fact,
Hague
it's
has
come
built,
from the fact you're looking like doing worse than you did last time.
William Hague has actually built a stronger and fitter and better party. He is firmly backed by the Parliamentary Party, and I believe we are going to win the next election. After all, you don't give up until the last vote is counted. You do not give up until the last vote is
I tell you what, we'll probably have you both back after June the 7th. Thank you very much.
I'll be very pleased to do so.
The Conservative Party lost the 2001 general election. Once again, the Labour Party had a massive majority. William Hague resigned as leader of the Conservative Party, and a leadership election was put into motion under the new rules.
Last week, the man both London MPs will have to beat finally entered the race, and Kenneth Clarke refused to hide his less than fashionable pro-European credentials under any kind of cover. But what of the challenge from the two men from the southeast, and how are they going down in what used to be Tory heartlands around the capital? Joe Coburn's been to find out in the backyard of the woman who could never be accused of taking refuge beneath a pashmina.
The county of Kent living up to its reputation as the Garden of England. This particular corner is home to the chairman of the Conservative Association in Maidstone, with the guest of honour none other than Anne Widdecombe. Anne Widdecombe has felt under siege herself recently, having been hounded out of the leadership race by her fellow MPs.
I would have preferred to have stood, but the support wasn't there, and that's just a fact. And therefore there's no point in wasting any time on regrets. I made a decision based on the facts. The support, I may say, that isn't there, it was from colleagues. There is masses of support out in the country.
For many grassroots Tories, the Maidstone MP would certainly have been their first choice. Now they have to pick another winner from the leadership pack.
Portillo is the only one that we've sort of heard a lot about, and he's always been in the background, and they've always shouted about him, you know, wanting to be leader, haven't they? But I'm not working keen on him, really.
Portillo is probably the lesser of all the evils, and possibly the one who might actually pull the party together, but he still doesn't strike me as a strong personality.
I think everybody is not really what I would like to see as a politician, I'm afraid.
So while a new dawn in Tory politics is certainly on the horizon, no one candidate has yet emerged as the clear favourite for the party faithful. Michael Portillo and Ken Clarke may be the best known, but down the road in Tunbridge Wells, some grassroots members know the future leader has to appeal to those outside as well as inside the party.
William Hague did a lot in 4 years to bring that change around. He's brought in a new basis on which people can work, and I think it allows us a broader base on which to go out and recruit, dare I say it, a broader church for the party.
Ironically, part of William Hague's modernising legacy will be his reform of the leadership selection process. In the first round, Conservative MPs will narrow the shortlist of candidates down to 2. The focus will then shift onto the party membership, who will make the final selection. But some activists say they should be able to choose from the complete lineup.
When MPs are choosing a leader, there's bound to be an element, human nature being what it is, of what's in it for me. Put this issue out to the whole party, and the ordinary members of the party, all they're interested in is choosing the best leader for the Conservative Party. That's the democratic way, and it's the right way, and it's the way I believe we should go.
One part of the southeast with a history of producing future leaders is the constituency of Chingford. Here, party workers are busy talking up their local MP, Iain Duncan Smith, as the man to succeed William Hague.
What you see is what you get with Iain. There's no flower, no spin, no rhetoric. And without decrying any of the other candidates, because at the end of this election, whoever is elected, we will stand fully behind whichever leader there is, whether it be Ken Clarke, Michael Portillo, Michael Ancram, whoever it is. But the people of our choices is Iain Duncan Smith. We're fully behind him.
There's been some comments about his haircut. Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with his. I don't think there's anything wrong with his haircut. I mean, he's perfect choice. He's smart. The haircut is a new haircut. It may be a bit short, but it's good.
He's got a very nice voice. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yes.
He's got beautiful eyes.
Yeah.
He's appealing all over.
Let's talk about the good points.
Yeah.
The things that go over immediately to people. I do think people judge sometimes on appearances, and perhaps that's not the only issue we're talking about here. Perhaps there are more important things that we said.
We've left David Davis out. I mean, he is perhaps the fifth and the only candidate may split Iain's vote, but not really, I don't think. I think people will suddenly see that it is probably between Iain and Portillo, and they will decide to put behind Iain, and then it will become to us, and then hopefully the whole party will vote Iain in because they can see he is a sensible candidate when Portillo isn't.
You've got to do this through a point of principle, and that's why I think that Iain Duncan Smith is the right candidate, because definitely we need to attract more women. We definitely need to attract more black votes and Asian votes. We need to appeal to Scottish people, to Welsh people, to voters in big cities, and you can only do that if you do that from principle.
Lavish praise there from some of Iain Duncan Smith's Conservative colleagues, but then they would say that, wouldn't they? What of the man himself? I asked him if he thought his candidacy would split the right-wing votes within his party.
Quite simply, I'm not after only the right wing, I'm after the Conservative Party, and as and when we go through this process, you'll see me coming through in the front, and as far as I'm concerned, that will unite everybody. I want all the Conservatives to recognise the way through is to change, but change as Conservatives, not change as a Labour Party.
Norman Tebbit says you're a normal family man with children. What's your policy going to be on Section 28 if you become leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, I think, you know, the obsession of the Westminster media on Section 28 just shows us how far apart we are from the general public. I have to tell you, I haven't heard a single person talk about it when I was going out on the stump. What they wanted to know about was the things that affect their lives, the poor quality of their health, the problem about getting their children into the right schools. So, with regard to Section 28, the cornerstone of that, or the key to that, is that it's about protecting children from undue influence that may push them in one direction or the other. That's the key area we want to hold on to. We want to make sure that that is not just thrown away. So, as far as the public is concerned, they want to have responsible and tolerant government, and that's what I'll give them.
How would you have dealt with John Townend if you'd been leader when he talked about a mongrel race?
Well, the key thing that any MP and any member of the Conservative Party has to recognise is that if they're talking or moving into an area like race, they want to be very, very careful that what they're saying is always couched in tones that are tolerant and are rational. And therefore any member is by all means welcome to discuss the matter, and we must put policies forward, as the Race Relations Group said so. But what we have to be very careful is that those tones are properly measured.
What would you have done?
About John Townend?
Yes, if you'd been leader.
I would have given John Townend, as William did, a fair hearing, and I would have expected him to recognise that if he had used language which had upset people, he was ready to apologise for it and withdraw it, which he duly did. If, of course, he hadn't been prepared to do that, then the option that William gave him would have been the same option that I would have given him, which is there would have been no room for him. But not particularly him, but anybody in the party who is intolerant.
Is it true, as some Conservative MPs claim, that Portillo supporters, some of them, are going to vote for you to keep Ken Clarke out of the ballot of the members?
I have no idea what Michael Portillo's supporters are going to do. It's debatable how many supporters he or anybody else has. My view is I stand as my own man on my own position, and if people want me, they should vote for me. I do not want anybody voting for me because they don't want somebody else. That's what Liberal Democrats do and the Labour Party do, and it is wrong and it's anti-democratic.
And who's going to win?
Well, I like to believe that I am. That's why I'm putting myself forward. And I have a very good chance of doing so. And I really do want to win for one simple reason. This party now needs to be led in a direction that binds it together and takes it right into the ground that Labour has, I'm sad to say, dominated for too long, that of public services. We need to oust them from that with serious solutions, just like we did in the 1970s and 80s when we threw them off the agenda of industry and the economy.
Iain Duncan Smith, who's been wooing Tory activists in Oxfordshire this weekend. Michael Portillo, meanwhile, has been trying to win over party members in Surrey. I caught up with him at the University of Surrey in Guildford, a seat the Tories lost to the Liberal Democrats, and asked him how he plans to overcome the hostility towards him among some Tory supporters.
Well, I'm in the business of being a Conservative, which I'm very proud to be, and making sure that we can apply those Conservative principles to modern times. And I have indeed learnt many things along the way, and I'm pleased to say that as well as some people who don't like me, there are a lot of people who support what I want to do. What I want to do is create a Conservative Party which is a proper spokesman for the people of this country, particularly the spokesman for the anxieties that they feel about the standard of medical treatment in this country, the quality of what goes on in our schools, our defences against crime, and the awfulness of the journey that everybody has to make to work each day by train.
The activists, of course, seem to prefer Kenneth Clarke. They say he's a bigger hitter than you.
I don't think politics is about landing blows, actually. I think that people probably have got fed up with that sort of politics.
Well, we've been talking to Conservative supporters in London and the South East. They say some pretty hostile things about you, some of them.
I can only speak my mind to them. I hope that when they hear me speak, they'll see that I have very strong beliefs, that I'm very committed to doing this, and very committed to making the Conservative Party a success again. We all, between us, bear a responsibility to pass down to the next generation a Conservative Party at least as strong as the one that we inherited. And right now, we are in a parlous condition. I don't believe that no change is an option, and therefore I must convince people that I'm the right candidate to lead them through that change.
We're in Guildford, a seat the Tories lost. Nick St Alban, the defeated MP, was critical of William Hague and your campaigning during the election, saying you concentrate on Europe too much, didn't say enough about issues like health and education.
I don't think it was the campaign itself that mattered most. It was that we failed to make more progress during the 4 years of the last Parliament. Most people didn't think that we were really passionate about public services. They didn't think we were really reflecting what they were worried about. That wasn't something that could be put right in the 3 or 4 weeks of a campaign. And what I'm offering now is that over the next 4 years, presumably running up to the next general election in 2005, we will demonstrate that the Conservatives are passionate about public services, will find alternative solutions to the ones offered by the government, and therefore will fight the government next time on the ground, on the centre ground, where people are most concerned about the services that the government can provide to them.
And is it true, as it's been claimed, that some of your supporters are going to engage in tactical voting?
Well, I want everyone who supports me to vote for me. And all this talk of tactical voting I find very dangerous, because people may end up being too clever by half and getting a result that they don't want. And I should say, by the way, that I welcome all the candidates who are in the contest, because it's right that the Conservative Party should have the fullest possible choice. And we do have a lot of talented people. I have respect for all of them.
Michael Portillo started the leadership election campaign as the favourite, but he was eliminated by the MPs. Iain Duncan Smith won in the final round, with the members of the party voting him as leader with a large majority. Within 18 months, his leadership came under threat, and this will be the subject of our next film.